I didn't give you a lot of examples of what I meant by that, but he was a good man because he had the capacity to not be a good man. If someone comes in here and they're like, I don't know, like an 85-pound beta cuck, and they're like, violence is never the answer. When you look at that person, do we say, wow, what a good guy, man? He says that violence is never the answer in his whole 85-pound frame. What would happen if that guy chose violence? He would die. So the guy he's not a virtuous person by choosing to live. He's preserving himself. It's like if we have a big old lion in here, it's sitting in the corner, he's just like, whatever, cleaning himself. And then in the corner over there, we have a little rabbit. And the rabbit's just sitting there doing what rabbits do. And the rabbit, because he's virtuous, decides to let the lion live. He doesn't attack the lion. But we sit there and go, wow, good boy, what a good rabbit. No, that rabbit dies if he approaches the lion. The only the only animal in that room who has a claim to virtue is the lion, because the lion could do terrible things, but it chooses not to. It could just walk over, eat the rabbit, and then go back to what he was doing, but he chooses not to. The person who's not capable of doing terrible things and then doesn't do terrible things is not a virtuous person. They're just existing. The ability to do horrible, terrible things and then choosing not to, that would be virtue. I'm not saying that we should change our lives around the way that other people live. All I'm saying is, if it's the life that you're living, man, choose it and embrace it. And if it's not a life that you're comfortable embracing, change it. Find something else that you can embrace. It goes back to that purpose, the meaning, and the passion, which are the things that make life, makes the suffering of life tolerable, we might say. Maybe even embraceable. You get full of something, because if you just drink a little bit of alcohol, you don't get drunk. You got to do a lot of it, and that's kind of what he's getting at. If you're going to do something, do a lot of it. So you should always be drunk. We could almost put the drunk in quotation marks. He doesn't in the actual text, but you could almost put that drunk in quotation marks. If you're going to do something, be drunk with it. In other words, go to the extreme with it. Whatever it is, with wine, okay. And he's not saying that you should. He's just saying that whatever it is that you do, go to the extreme with it. With poetry, and interestingly enough, that last one, virtue. Virtue is to how would you say it? Is to do the right thing. So, for example, if you refer to a person and you say they're a virtuous person, you're saying that they're a moral person. They do the right thing. They choose the right things. They speak the right way. And they have a positive impact on the world around them, themselves, the people in it, and the whole world around them. A virtuous person, we would say, is a good person. Sometimes if I ask, like, is so-and-so, are they a good person? You might be like, they do more good than bad, I guess. That's not a virtuous person. A virtuous person, as we were talking about on that first quote we looked at from Marcus Aurelius. I made a comment that Marcus Aurelius was a good man. I didn't give you a lot of examples of what I meant by that, but he was a good man because he had the capacity to not be a good man. Being a good person, like for example, when we say like, if someone comes in here and they're like, I don't know, like an 85-pound beta cuck, and they're like, violence is never the answer. When you look at that person, do we say, wow, what a good guy, man? He says that violence is never the answer in his whole 85-pound frame. What would happen if that guy chose violence? He would die. So the guy he's not a virtuous person by choosing to live. He's preserving himself. What's that? He's in fear, exactly. It's like if we have a big old lion in here, it's sitting in the corner, he's just like, whatever, cleaning himself. And then in the corner over there, we have a little rabbit. And the rabbit's just sitting there doing what rabbits do. And the rabbit, because he's virtuous, decides to let the lion live. He doesn't attack the lion. But we sit there and go, wow, good boy, what a good rabbit. No, that rabbit dies if he approaches the lion. The only the only animal in that room who has a claim to virtue is the lion, because the lion could do terrible things, but it chooses not to. It could just walk walk over, eat the rabbit, and then go back to what he was doing. But he chooses not to. The person who's not capable of doing terrible things and then doesn't do terrible things is not a virtuous person. They're just existing. The ability to do horrible, terrible things and then choosing not to, that would be virtue. Marcus Aurelius is the emperor of the Roman Empire, the emperor of the world, essentially, as far as he was concerned. And that was a guy who could have done terrible things. I think I made the comment last time that, as far as, if I'm not mistaken about this, he's the only Roman emperor who we know of all of the ones who existed, who didn't have like a bunch of side girls. He didn't have a harem. This was a guy who married one person, stayed married to her, and then his entire life, and as far as we know, there's no example of him ever having been unfaithful. The only Roman emperor, which tells you something about power and what it does. Why? Because he said, I made a commitment to this one person. And for him, all of those other things of like pleasures, desires, power, all of that was secondary to keeping your word, doing the right thing, keeping your word. Because he understood, well, if you cheat on your spouse, the one person who's supposed to be closest to you in your life, the one person who's supposed to know you better than everybody else, if you'll cheat on that one person, who wouldn't you cheat in life? It's like when someone says, oh, I cheat on my wife, but trust me, you can go into business with me. I wouldn't cheat you. Like, really? You're crazy if you go into business with somebody like that. You're crazy if you know somebody who cheats on people and you still trust them and depend on them. You can't do it. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers when I say that, but it's true. And Marcus Aurelius understood that. And he could have done it, and he chose not to. This was a guy that I mentioned, he was worshipped as a god. And he had a person who walked beside him to remind him every 20 feet or so, you're only a man. He didn't have to do that. He could have indulged in it, just like all of the other emperors did. He could have indulged in it, but he didn't. In fact, there's a story that he disappears for a few months. He hands over the reins of power to somebody else because he and his wife are having problems. And so he decides that he has to step away from being the emperor because that's his primary promise. And then he comes back. And it's funny because when he steps away, they have all these people. The guy's doing the right thing. The guy's fulfilling virtue. And yet the people in the empire, his enemies, are spreading all these rumors. Well, did you hear that she was cheating on him? That's why he's doing it. No, there's no evidence of that. But those were the rumors that were spread about him to make him look stupid, attacking him because he was doing the right thing. Yeah, because if you are virtuous, people will attack you because you're doing the right thing. Even as I just explained, some people can have some terrible thoughts in their heads about what I just said, about cheating and whether or not you can trust people to do it, and yet it is the right thing. So I asked last time, if you do the right thing, does that mean that you're going to be admired and appreciated? No, you can't control your reputation with that. All you can control is what you do. And so whatever it is that you're going to do, man, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for everything in life that you do and everything in your life that you don't do. If you lie, you're going to pay for that. If you tell the truth, you're going to pay for that. The question is, what do you want to pay for? Because again, if you've had me before, you've heard it a million times, man, life is suffering. And you don't get to choose not to suffer, but you can choose what you're going to suffer for. Are you going to suffer for doing the right thing? Or are you going to suffer for doing the wrong thing? Are you going to suffer for lying? Or are you going to suffer for telling the truth? Are you going to suffer for the right thing? Or are you going to suffer for the wrong thing? You're going to suffer anyway. So the point is that if you're going to choose the things that you suffer for, man, do it. Do it to the extreme because it's the life that you've chosen. And the life that you've chosen is entirely and completely your own, which is what makes it so valuable. There's nothing virtuous about not doing things that you're not capable of. But there's something virtuous about choosing to do things. Whatever it is. If you're gonna get into poetry, get into poetry. Because getting into poetry is gonna cost you certain things. The time that you spend reading, other people are spending out doing other things. Oh, the time that you're spending reading, other people are playing video games. Why do people play so many video games? Here's an easy answer for it. You ready? It's fun. We put it down all the time like, oh my God, why do people play those things? Here's why, because it's fun. But then that's the trade-off. You can have that fun, which is for now, or you can read poetry. Oh, I'll choose games. Then do it. Then do it. Do it to the extremes. It's the life that you've chosen. But here's the thing, you're going to live with the choices that you make. Accept those choices that you make. And then you can accept your life. That's a big part of accepting your life, which is to accept the choices, to embrace the choices that you make. What are the best decisions for your life? What are the best things that you can do for your life? Here's what sucks. You don't know. You don't know. Should you read more poetry or should you play more video games? You should read more poetry. Of course, obvious. And then one day, you're going down to the bookstore to get a new book of poetry, and you get hit by a car and you die. Wouldn't it have been better to have just played a video game? You can't know what's going to be better for you. You can't. All you can do is make the choices that you make and then embrace the life that comes from it. Whatever it is that you're going to choose, whether it's wine, alcoholism, okay, but embrace that life, I suppose. Is it the life you want to embrace? I wonder how many of us sit here and go, man, I wish my parents drank more. I wish my dad would just get rip-roaring, raging ass drunk all the time. I wish I had to hide in the closet more when I was a kid, not to avoid abuse. How many of us sit there and say we want that life for our parents? And yet it's weird that we'll choose that life for ourselves. Whatever the life is, man, do it to the extreme. Whether it's something as base as wine, whether it's something as complex and meaningful as virtue. Maybe with this, I was at I think I mentioned before that my friend died a couple weeks ago. I was at his funeral yesterday, and it was really interesting, man. There were so many people who had stories. People sent me a bunch of messages about this guy, so many stories about this dude, of him just being a good dude. You know, he was a teacher here. Some of you know who he is. And I had so many people reach out to me and say stuff like one person said that she was across the street at Starbucks one day after school getting coffee before track meet. And she saw him there. And he said something like, oh, Suhai track, just because she was wearing her. She says, yeah. And she said, you should come watch us. So he says, okay. So he goes over and he watches the track meet. She wasn't his student. He had no idea who she was, but yet he went. And this person was telling me that this was like 7-8 years ago. And she was telling me, yeah, I have no idea. I had no idea who he was. He just showed up. That guy went to an extreme in how he lived with those things. And he made almost everybody he interacted with feel important and cared about. He went to the extreme on that. I wonder how many of us would sit there and go, nah, but I don't know about going that far. And yet this dude's church was packed yesterday for his funeral. He wasn't there to see it, but it was packed. And many of us will sit there and go, what an awesome guy, man. What an incredible guy, man. I want to be just like Esperon. And then we go back to living the life that we've already lived, that we were living before that. I'm not saying that we should change our lives around the way that other people live. All I'm saying is, if it's the life that you're living, man, choose it and embrace it. And if it's not a life that you're comfortable embracing, change it. Find something else that you can embrace. It goes back to that purpose, and the meaning, and the passion, which are the things that make life. Well, it makes the suffering of life tolerable, you might say. Maybe even embraceable. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? So, happy Wednesday? Happy Wednesday.